Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaskar, I am Dr. Susmitha P. Mallaya, Professor, Faculty of Law, University of Delhi. We are discussing about the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961. In the last class, we have seen why a legislation was enacted and why the giving and taking of the dowry has been penalized. And today we are going to discuss the role of the community or the evaluation of the role of the community engagement in dowry prohibition, because it is required. Just mere having a law is not sufficient. We think that law was made and law was enacted. However, it is not paying. Still, after so many of years, the bridal are getting suicide committed or they are facing a lot of issues. So a comprehensive examination of how community involvement and the social change can complement legal framework in eradicating the practice of dowry in India is what we are going to discuss today. So in the societal context, how a society can play a role. In the last class, we discussed about the legislation, that is the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961, and we have seen the provisions are made on the demand of the dowry at the time of marriage, before the time, or during the time. So it is a continuation of it. So here we are saying in this societal context, why dowry is still persistent, because the enactment was in 1951, but still we are having the dowry death. Still we are seeing that the couples are not happily living. And whenever the allegations are happening, it is the dowry demand that is made. And out of that shock, mental shock, agony, and the harassment that is given to by the in-laws or the husband or the relatives, the woman is committing the suicide or she's murdered also. And we have seen the interplay of the other legislations, Domestic Violence Act and all we have discussed. So why there is a need for the society to play a prominent role? Because we need to eradicate the social menace of dowry or dowry death. So what is the perspective of the dowry? You see that robust legal framework we have, but it is still prevailing in our society. It is because of, so there are so many studies that has been conducted by the criminologists and the NGOs. What they are coming up with is that there is a deep cultural roots that is linked to the patriarchal mindset and hypergamy. Apart from that, the economic considerations and the women's lack of financial independence. So please note, here we are using the term women's lack of financial independence. Do you really think that? Do you really think that? Because we are reading in the newspaper, we have read a few months back as well, that a educated, well-employed, and that to a teacher in a very prominent school committed the suicide. And why it is, so the question is, she has been harassed. Now she is saying that it's a mental agony. She has written that note where she said that why I am forced to commit the suicide. So in that she is saying that, it's the newspaper report I am referring to, that there is always a demand and she is treated as a commodity. So she is not getting any kind of love and affection from the family. So this is so it is not that she was depending on others. She was not dependent. And it is very unfortunate that the husband is also a professional. in-laws are also, so they are well-to-do family. So the question remains, is it only because of the lack of financial independence of the women that makes the people to demand more, and which compels a lady or a woman to commit suicide, right? So this need to be we need to think about this perspective. Similarly, economic considerations. Economic considerations means the more you want, the more you want. So we are not getting satisfied with what we have. We are expecting more. We are expecting more. So in a way, we can see that women is treated as a commodity. So marriage has become, is taking or changing a shape of a commodity. So if we look into that, the dowry, and remember from the Muslim, it is mahar. So it is not included, it's exceptions. There are certain exceptions that is provided under the Dowry Prohibition Act, where all part of dowry is not offense, but only demanding it, indirectly or directly. But if something is given out of love and affection, that is not considered as a dowry. So here we can, when we are discussing about the economic considerations, it means that a parent who is not in a position to afford the education for a girl child, but he is conducting the marriage of that girl child in a very pomp and very expensive manner, taking the loans and all, then he becomes the bankrupt. He is trying his best to meet the ends. But he has that concept in the mind that I should compete, or my daughter's marriage should be what the society says, and accordingly he is trying to do it. So here the economic considerations are also becoming, a kind of society's demand, or we can say that is why this dowry, whatever we do from the part of the legislations, it is so deep rooted that it is very difficult to change it from the society unless and until the community or the society themselves come and create an awareness about the menace, which is a social evil now. So if you look into the limitations of the punitive laws, what it says, the penal laws primarily react to the offences. So it is a kind of reaction rather than proactively preventing the deeply ingrained practice. So what we have to see is that we all know about the prevention is better than cure. After the death of a bride, after the death of a child, what the society will gain or what that parents will gain. So it is not that it is happening in your neighborhood. It is happening in our society. We are part of that system. And it is we who are accepting such type of offenses, or we only created, it was not an offense earlier, but we made it an offense. Still, even after making an offense, it is still continuing. So imagine the deep-rooted social evil that is existing in our society. That is why we have to think beyond the lens of the legislature. Legislature is there only to, push it up or just to support. Because why? Because it is reacting. When the death happens, then the law comes into picture, then they will start the investigation. If the death happened within the 7 years of marriage, then the officer will be charging it as a dowry death. Or then even from sometimes you can see that nowadays it is becoming a gender neutral. Why it is a gender neutral? Because it is not only from the girl side, but also sometimes from the boy side also. So nowadays we are just we have to discuss from the general point of view also. So what is happening? Then we will start reacting to it. So the penal laws are a kind of reaction. It's not a response. It's not respond to the issue. But what we need is to eliminate the social evil in the form of dowry, right? So why there is a need for paradigm shift? We need to shift this. Why? The true eradication requires the fundamental change in the societal attitudes, values, and the norms. Unless and until we change, see, that's very important, that there is a need to shift from not only from the legislature penal provision, but the engagement of the society to eradicate the social menace, because this is not like any other offenses which we have. So what is the change that is required? One is the societal attitudes, values, and the norms. So these three aspects we need to shift from the social point of view or from the societal context beyond the legislation. So legislation is there, it is fine, but we have to think beyond that, because it is such a deep ingrained, we can say, the social practice that is existent, and we cannot say that you should not give any gift to your daughter, of course. But the thing is that we need to think from the different perspective where the community engagement is made. So now, why community engagement is critical here? Let us discuss about the need for the community engagement. The reason is that marriages are the social occasions where dowry demands often manifest. And that is the platform. So that is the platform where maybe the future bride or the bridegroom also meets, their parents meets, or the relates through the relatives, or the marriage brokers also will be there. So marriages are the social occasion where the dowry demands often manifest, right? And making the community members crucial actors who can exert powerful social pressure against the practice. So whenever we are attending a marriage, looking into the way the marriages are conducted, the gifts that are given to the bride or the bridegroom, then when it comes to our home also, we feel that our marriage also need to be conducted in this way. And from both the sides, that will be the kind of expectations. And it is here that pressure needs to be eliminated. And the local initiative. So what is required is that if the communities they are meeting and they're saying that, okay, it's good, but it's not required also. So the local initiatives are vital to disseminate information about the anti-dowry laws. So there we can discuss, instead of discussing or instead of gossiping any other aspects, that in that house, her daughter has given this much, her son has received this much. Instead of that, we can discuss that, are you aware that there is a legal provision that if you are taking the dowry, you are giving the dowry, is this also punishable? Because many times people are not aware that giving of dowry is also punishable. Demanding is punishable. Many of them are not aware. So that platform can be used to send a message to the society. There are a lot of dance programs that are happening. So why don't a theme where a small play which focus on the menace of this dowry demand, or the death that happens, can also be showcased in a very funny manner also it can be showed, where the conclusion comes to a beautiful end. So here the locally we have to take, it's a state law, it is a central law, but it is not that nook and corner also it should go. So the local initiatives are vital to disseminate information about anti-dowry laws, then reaching those who might not access to the formal legal channels. So it is very important. The reason being that it is not that everybody is aware of the laws. Many are not aware that there is a legislation known as the Dowry Prohibition Act, and prohibition includes even the demand. Many are not aware. Sometimes I doubt really whether educated persons are also aware or not, right? So this platform, so here we can say that the community members can identify and intervene at the nascent dowry demand. So that is why, where they can intervene in the nascent dowry demands before they escalate, fostering an environment where dowry becomes socially unacceptable. So here the community engagement becomes crucial, that before the demand for the dowry takes place, or where there are, the environment is created in such a way that they are forcing you to give the dowry, there the community engagement is critical, and it will help to an extent that it will prohibit the asking of the dowry or the demanding of the dowry. Okay, now moving further, who are the first line of defense? What are the first line of defense? Are they families and the individuals? First aspect is that you refuse. That is what? The power of refusal. That is the first line of defense. So if the girl comes to know that the boy's side, they are asking for the dowry if the marriage is need to happen, you refuse. You straight away refuse. You say that no. The fundamental change begins with the families. A charity begins at home. It is not that, we can expect every time the state interferes, state will guide us and all. State is there to protect us. But we have to think, we have to change our thoughts for the social welfare from our home. That's why it is said that the charity begins at home. It's not that you go outside and do the charity and in your house the people are starving. So similarly, the refusal, the first aspect is refuse. Refuse the fundamental change, deciding neither to give or take. So suppose if there is a son and a daughter. When it comes to the daughter should say that I won't marry a person who is asking a dowry. So don't expect. Okay, first. And same, the parents of the boy also say that we need your daughter, but not any kind of dowry. She'll be living happily with us. So the first is the power to refuse. The moment the refusal starts, the moment the refusal from the both sides starts, there is no taking or giving the dowry. So out of love and affection, you can give, you can take, but it is only with the love and affection, not otherwise. No, not at all demand it. Okay, because it is not a commodity. Both sides, they are not commodities. It's not a property to be sold where you are bargaining the value based on your color, your education, what is your earning, what is your stand in the society. You are not a product to be sold. So refuse it. It's fine if you are remaining unmarried. But getting married and then getting the harassment, which is either you are getting murdered or you are getting, harassed or you are forced to commit suicide. It's better not to get married, because it is not that without marriage a person cannot live. So first aspect is refuse, power to refuse. And second is the empowerment. So one of the object of discussing this legislation with you all is a kind of empowerment which I would like to make, which I would like to reach out to you, whoever is listening. And this empowerment can be made, that is encourage education. But remember that when I'm saying here education, that does not mean that you should have a degrees and you should be educated. Because it is not that only educated people are taking or demanding or giving the dowry. It is everywhere, uneducated also. So, but however, empower, that is you encouraging or giving education to a girl child is very, very important. And the girl should be made such empowered that she should be able to say no when she comes to know that a demand is made by the bridegroom. Secondly, the economic independence of the bride. So when you are independent, when the girl child is independent, she will get a confidence. But remember, don't be overconfident. Okay. So economic independence of the brides, instilling gender equality values for the grooms. So that means it is also important when a son is there in your home, you should inculcate such values in him that he should not treat the wife as a commodity. He should not expect such things that he start harassing the wife and say that it is an accepted norm. No. So one is the empowerment for the both sides. Empowerment. Then another important aspect is the open communication. Open communication is also required, where the families should engage in the open discussion about the dowry, challenging its practice. So always the home is where the families be together nowadays we are living in an electronic, or we can say the technology related world. We are using the WhatsApp, we are reaching out, but still let that platforms be the means for open communication or the discussion, where we should not hesitate to speak about the dowry and its nuances, or we can say that menace that is happening in our society, and you should challenge the practice of the dowry. And secondly, the role model. Role modeling, that is the families conducting dowry-free marriages, become powerful example for others. So if you are sometimes, you go to a marriage, there you can see the exhibitions that is made. Exhibitions where you can see that the car, utensils, whatever that is given to the bride is exhibited. Why there is a need for that? You object to it. You say that this is a dowry-free marriage. Or there is no need to say also, don't show such things. So families conducting, it should be a role model. So even in the villages, if once such kind of marriages are done, then everybody will follow it. Everybody will appreciate such kind of marriages, be the role model, where the dowry-free marriages become the powerful example for others. So once you set an example, then nowadays what is happening? Because of the the haldi ceremony, lot of it's because of the rituals. But nowadays, since the role models, we are competing with the film stars. It is shown the other, that is, the dress the bride need to wear. So it's just like a show causing. And then we feel that no, we should also have the same things. So it has taken the ceremony, which was once a ritual, has become now a kind of commodity. It is just like a fashion show, save the date. So many things nowadays happening. That is why I would say that education and how the globalization has made an impact even on the marriages. That is why these are the places where there is a need for empowerment, and as well as we can say that the families and the individuals should come together and speak about the nuances of the dowry. So if they are doing it, is fine. But instead of taking them as a role model, if we are able to find any celebrities who are doing a marriage in a very simple manner, we should make them as a role model. So role modeling is very important, and we should encourage that system, so that we will achieve the prohibition of the dowry apart from the legal perspective. Now, next aspect is the role of the local leaders. What is the role of the local leaders? That is the panchayats and the community elders. We are the society where we always listen to the elders. We give importance to the elders. Still we have that. We have not that much modernized, where they have to listen to us. Though it is slowly that changes are coming in the society. We can't say that it is not happening. Because of the impact of the so-called liberalization, globalization and all, the more we try, so the changes are happening in our society, no doubt. However, still we respect the elders. So the panchayat and the community leaders also can play a very important role for the prevention of the dowry, which is a social menace. How they can? One is, they hold the significant moral authority and influence over local norms. So the local norms are there. So these elders, that is the panchayat leaders, they have a prominent role. Many times they are invited for the marriage function. So there they can come and they can encourage and they can appreciate. So kind of moral authority is there on them to propagate a dowry-free marriages in their locality. Secondly, they can act, suppose if the dowry aspect is started and some, the giving and taking is happening. So they can act as a mediators in the dowry related disputes. Remember that the law says that before the marriage, at the marriage, after the marriage. So it's not that only during the marriage. So sometimes after the marriage only, maybe they have not demanded earlier, but after the marriage, they're asking for the dowry. And the dispute happens. The girl is coming back to the home saying that they're harassing me for the dowry. Now, here the role of the local leader can be utilized, where he can act as a mediator, and then he can show this law to them that, look, if you are insisting more and if you're harassing this, these are the provisions and for where you will be penalized. So this is the occasion where the law can be brought and where a mediation can be done in order to resolve the dispute relating to the dowry. Thirdly, that is, if from the community level itself, they can pass resolution against the dowry. Whenever the meeting happens at the panchayat level, they can bring one item in their agenda relating to the say no to dowry. That is, in our community or from this region, from this locality, we will say that no dowry is required. Okay, so that can be also made. These are all the suggestions. Okay, now again, aspect is that facilitate and solemnize dowry-free marriages. You can give some kind of offer. The community hall can be given as a free for those who are conducting a marriage without dowry. So it's an incentive. It's a motivation. So there, the facilities and solemnize the dowry-free marriages. These initiatives can be taken from the panchayat level or from the community elders, by the community elders. So I'm discussing about beyond the laws, how the community can play an active role to stop the social menace of dowry. Then another is the collaborate with the dowry prohibition officers. So it is also important that there is a concept of DPOs, that is the dowry prohibition officers. So legislation in its enactment has made a provision for the dowry prohibition officers. So collaborate with them. How many of you are aware of the dowry prohibition officer in your area? Are you aware of it? Or else please go today and search who is the dowry prohibition officer in your area. And if you say that we don't know and there is no dowry prohibition officer, then please make it a point to report to the concerned authorities that there is a requirement of the dowry prohibition officer in our area. So that is why the collaborative approach or a collaborative aspect is required if we need to eradicate the social evil of the dowry. Then there are challenges in some areas, that is the traditional leaders might perpetuate dowry. Their sensitization is very crucial. See, I have said all these things. However, it is very crucial. It is very challenging because the traditional leaders, they are in favor of dowry. So what you will do for that, right? So it's a very sensitization. So first you have to sensitize them. There comes the role of the youth. The youth or the educated people, they can sensitize those leaders, those traditional leaders who are very pro to the dowry and who are very demanding, and tell them that these are the laws which may go against you, and your leadership will also get vanished and it can be challenged. So like that, if we take up the role and we bring the leaders at the panchayat and the community level, elders, then this we can eradicate the dowry from our society, the sampradaya of the dowry. Now, is there any role for the religious leaders? That is what now we are going to discuss. What is the moral and the ethical persuasion? What is the role of the religious leader? First, we know that the religious leaders influence. There are a lot, apart from any kind of religion, any religion we can say there are gurus. So they are influencing. They are influencing, saying that this is what will happen to your life in this day, that day, and they will come up with lot of aspects. So religious leader command, respect and influence the societal practice. Whatever they say, many a times we blindly believe them. That is their influence. People will, instead of visiting the temples, they will visit the abode of their influential gurus. So they can play a very, very important role where they can educate them, where they can say that don't take the dowry. So ethical, that is, they can also quote, or they can also say that ethical denunciation, that is using religious text, using the religious text to condemn dowry as immoral and unjust. So they can also take that is condemn dowry as immoral. That in this particular text is mentioned that dowry should not be taken, because if you take the dowry, then it will amount that you are doing some bad deed or good deed. So that kind of influence they can make. Secondly, counseling, providing guidance to families struggling with dowry demands and counsel them. Then you promote simplicity. That means encourage simple, cost-effective marriage ceremonies. You encourage them with a very cost-effective marriage ceremony. So we can see that the role of the religious leaders are morally and ethically, they can persuade the persons say no to the dowry. Now, what is the role of educational institutions? Educational institutions as well, they also shape the future generation. So first is bringing this legislation or the awareness about the dowry system that is prevailing and how it need to be tackled in the curriculum integration. Make it is a part compulsory. I will say that from the school level itself it should start. When they are young, they should know about, and they should be in a position to say no. It's not that once you grow up, then your attitude can be changed, your values can be changed. It's very difficult. So curriculum integration, that is incorporated gender sensitization and the legal literacy about the dowry laws into the school curriculum. Let the school children learn about the nuance of this dowry. Secondly, create the awareness program, like organizing workshops, seminars, debates, street plays to raise awareness. Then what is the role of the educators? Educators also play a very important role. That means the teachers who are acting as a mentors, guiding students to question harmful traditions. A teacher can play a very important role. So it is having, because education, it will have a long-term impact. If I look into myself, I can see that I have been influenced with the system that I will not marry any person who is demanding a dowry. And that has taken a very good initiative in my side, so that even if the marriage got late, it is fine. But I have not married any person who was demanding a dowry. So that is very important. That is from the childhood. So if the children have that, it is having a long-term impact, and education create a generation less inclined to accept or demand dowry, because now it is becoming a gender neutral. I'm not saying, of course, now in this legislation we have seen only from the girl's perspective, because it is always the boy side who is demanding the dowry and harassing. That is the one side which we have seen, and which we have seen the reported cases as well. But now we can see that with the change of the times, it is causing the other side as well. It may not be not in the terms of the money, but in other side also, they are also demanding that if you want my daughter to be married, then you should have that much in your hand, this much, then only I will give my daughter to marriage. That is also happening in our society. We cannot say that no, it is not happening. Somewhere it is also happening. So that is why there is a need for a general neutral laws need to be enacted now. Now the another is the youth and the student groups, agents. They are all the agents of change. How? They can raise the voice of change. How? The dynamic force. Youth are less bound by the rigid tradition and can be powerful catalyst for the social change. They can play a very active role. Then we are in the digital area. I'm reaching out to you digitally. So this is also a platform which I'm trying to create an awareness to say to no to dowry through the classes. So here we have seen, I have introduced you, it's a social evil. Just by discussing it, how we can do. So there is a role for the communities to come up. So digital advocacy, utilizing the social media platform to spread the anti-dowry messages and mobilize public opinion. You create a questionnaire, ask, do you want dowry? How many will say yes? How many will say no? And if they say yes, why do you need it? Then the cultural programs. The cultural programs, that means the organizing the plays, songs and art forms that depict the harmful effects of the dowry. So this also can be used. Then the non-governmental organizations and civil society, NGOs, they play a very pivotal role. The NGOs, especially the women rights organization, have been at the forefront of the anti-dowry movement. Similarly, the victim support services. Having said this, there are many victims. So what will happen to them? Provide them the legal aid, counseling, shelter homes, and helplines for immediate assistance can also be introduced, and if it is there, which by way of which the NGOs are making, that is the non-governmental organizations. Then advocacy and research, that is working with the government to strengthen the laws, collecting data and publishing the report. What is the role of media? Media can play a very important role to create the awareness and the public discourse. How? By shaping a public opinion. What you are thinking can be changed by the media, right? So media has a powerful role in bringing the dowry related issue into the public discourse. So it is only because they are bringing, then we are getting aware of that there is loss, but it is not that much they are influencing to say stop no to dowry, right? So reporting and investigating. So they can investigate, they can report, highlighting the incidents and uncovering systematic issues in enforcement. What are the issues that has been taken up? Then awareness campaigns. So the media can also take up the awareness campaigns, running public service announcements and spreading program on the dowry prohibition. So they can show a small clip during their peak serial time that how the dowry is influencing how it is harming a society where the peace is required, or where the harmony, where the marriages needs and harmony. So they can show such kind of small clips where the persons are saying no to the dowry, like that. Just like the insurance, we are seeing a lot of ads. Similarly, in this regard also, they can show an awareness campaign through them. But however, it's a challenge. Challenges in the sensitizing, then re-victimization, and sometimes insufficient follow-up. So it is very difficult that we will be following up the issues. Now, what are the government initiatives for the women's safety and empowerment? We need to be aware about this. That's what I am just bringing. I'm taking this platform to reach you out. What are the government initiative for the women's safety? Having said this, if there is an harassment that you are facing in your home, there is a Nirbhaya fund that is introduced in 2013, where a dedicated fund for the schemes enhancing women's safety and security is provided by the government. Then we have one-stop centers, that is the integrated support for women affected by violence under one roof. So if you are the victim of it, you can reach to one-stop center. Then we have the women helpline, that is 181. It is a 24/7 emergency support service for women facing the violence. Then we have the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, where addressing the declining child sex ratio and promoting the girls' education. So these are from the government initiatives which have taken up the women's safety and empowerment. So this will help for saying no to the cases of the dowry. Now, another is the economic empowerment. This I already discussed with you, the economic empowerment of women, which is a powerful deterrent. First is the financial independence. You need to be financially independent. You are educated, then you will get the job, and you should not, even if you are educated, you should earn by the means which you can. You develop your skill, and the skill education is also government is promoting. Then education and employment, self-skill development, which I already mentioned. Then the property rights. You should be aware of your property right. That does not mean that you should fight for it. You should earn it. You should not fight. Then economic independence allow women to be seen as assets rather than liabilities. So more you are educated, you are earning, then you are not a liability when you are getting married or you are living with the other person. You are treated as an asset. But remember, asset and liability is for the property. We are all good human beings. So we should have that kind of emotions in us and should not be treated as a property. Then fundamentally altering their position in marriage, negotiation, and increasing their bargaining power to resist dowry demands. So the more the women are empowered, then you will become, you will get more power to resist the dowry demands. Now, what are the best practices in the community engagement for dowry prohibition? What is the best practice? One is the integrated approach. Integrated approach signifies combining legal literacy with awareness of social and economic empowerment. And this is very crucial for this legislation. We are discussing about the socio-economic offense. And we know that the law is there, but still, considering it that is close to each and every one of us, there is a need for an integrated approach where there is a combination of the law as well as the society, social norms. We cannot just have only law, because giving is also a problem. It's not that only the takers. So from the girl's side, you are giving the dowry. That is why your child is getting harassed. So you also need to be punished, right? So that may be the reason why the girl's parents are also sitting quiet. So there is a need for an integrated approach where combining the legal literacy with awareness of the social and economic empowerment is the best practice required from the community level. Secondly, your youth leadership. Training the youth people to become an anti-dowry advocates. The youth should say that I will not marry a girl's family who is giving me a dowry. It's very difficult, but yes, there is a need for the young people to become anti-dowry advocates. You advocate for say no to dowry. Secondly, dowry-free village models. There is a need to have a model village where communities come together and support eradicating the dowry through social pledge. Just like we are coming and saying, say no to drugs. We should start a campaign where we will say that, say no to dowry. And just we have the models on literacy, 100% literacy, state or the village. Similarly, we need to have a dowry-free village model where the village, all of them will say that, say no to dowry. Then we need to have a cultural program. Cultural program using the local art form to convey anti-dowry messages accessibly. So these are the best practices in the community engagement for dowry prevention. Then, what are the challenges? These are very easy to say. What are the challenges in the community-led prevention? One is, it's deep-rooted. Having discussed all these things, it is a deep-rooted evil practice that is ingrained in our society. So, it is difficult to change. Secondly, the social pressure and the stigma for families who refuse dowry. This very, 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 very challenging it is to say that no. Saying no, yes is okay, but no means you have to think twice to say no. So it is a social pressure and the stigma for families who refuse dowry. Because she has said this, so it's fine. So that family is like that. Let us avoid them. So that is why it is a social pressure. Then dowry disguised as a gift. So now the term dowry has been made as a gift or expenses. So what will say that? Marriage expenses to be born. You take the marriage expenses. So when it comes to the marriage expenses, then you will be demanding more. I need this much of expense, this much of food, this much of this, it should be like that. So the expenses will be more. So dowry has been now, the terminology has been changed to the gift and expenses or expenses. Then lack of sustained engagement in initiatives. You will come once, then you will say that no, then after that only one, then we will again. So consistency is required. But however, sustained engagement is difficult to see. And this is one of the challenges in the community-led prevention. So the community may come once, they will say they will integrate there, but again, for the next time, they will not be seen. So the persistency is required and that is lacking. Then there is a need for resistance from the traditional power structure. There is a need for resistance. Then fear of reprisal for speaking out. They will feel fearful to speak out, that they are demanding that much for the marriage. They may feel fearful to speak out. So this is also a challenge, right? Then economic disparities exacerbating dowry pressure. So the economic, that means sometimes, the girl side will be more powerful or maybe the boy side will be more powerful. So there is an economic disparity. So then the dowry pressure. So we'll feel that the boy's family whom we are going to get married our daughter, they are in a higher. So we also see that our daughter is not getting affected from them. So we ourselves will offer. So that is why the economic disparities persist. Or sometimes the boy's family may not ask for the dowry if they see that the girl is very well off. But later on, they come to know that from the girl's side, they have not given anything. Then they will feel the pressure. Oh, now we thought that they will be giving, but they have not given. So that is why the economic disparities that is existing, that will make a dowry pressure. Then different challenges in the urban and the rural settings. So the urban area, the demand is different, and the rural area, there is a difference. So these are the community challenges, or we can say that the challenges for a community-led prevention that comes with the dowry prohibition. Now, the success stories and the impact assessment. We need to take the success stories. And for that, there are three aspects. One is the awareness. Awareness significantly raise the public awareness about the illegality and the immorality of the dowry. So, creating a kind of awareness that publicly that you are illegal. If you are asking a dowry, that means it is illegal and it is immoral. Secondly, support system. That is the growth of NGOs helpline, which I already mentioned. Support groups providing critical lifelines. So, support. If such things are happening, support them. Then, the third is the dowry-free marriages. So, these are the three success stories which we can set impact assessment, which will impact saying no to dowry. What is the dowry-free marriages? Increasing number of families consciously opting for the dowry-free marriages. So, you should be very conscious to say no to the dowry, and that such dowry-free marriages need to be encouraged. So, of course, the progress is slow. The progress may be slow, indicating the sustained, but what is required is the sustained community effort, and complementing legal action can drive the change. So what we can see is that there is a need for coordination between legal as well as the social norms coming together. That is the community effort. They should complement each other. They should not fight each other. They should complement each other. Then that will give up the success. Now, what are the inter-stakeholder synergy for effective prevention? One is the government and civil society. So, collaborative efforts between the officials and the NGOs. Then, that is the inter-stakeholder synergy where it can be prevented. Government, then the civil society, they should come together. There should be some kind of officials that is from the government side, and then they are integrated with the NGOs, and they can organize the awareness programs in the villages as well, where they will say no to dowry, or give some kind of incentives, like even the free marriage hall for those who say no to the dowry. So this time, these things can be encouraged. Then the education sector, that is the schools partnering with the NGOs for the awareness campaign. We are creating awareness campaigns for the drugs. Similarly, we should need to partner with the schools with the NGOs for awareness campaigns saying no to dowry. Then religious leadership, they will also play an important role. Religious leadership collaborating to influence the social norms. They should say that this dowry was not our social practice. And instead, they should make those stories where the dowries was not accepted. They should bring up such kind of stories. And if you look into our Puranas, you will find definitely. And it is for you to search about it, right? Now, the media as an ally. You can take the media where the promoting anti-dowry narratives and positive change can be seen. So, the inter-stakeholder synergy for the effective prevention consists of the government and the civil society, education sector where the schools are integrating with the NGOs for the awareness campaigns, then the media as an ally, and the religious leadership. So, they all can come together to say no to the dowry, or for creating an awareness about this dowry related issues that is faced. Now, what are the recommendations for strengthening the community role? So, having said this, first is the localized action plan. So, localized action plan is the developed tailored anti-dowry strategies for specific regions. Secondly, empower dowry prohibition officers. Provide adequate resources and enhance community outreach. Promote community monitoring. That is from local vigilance committees to identify and intervene. Incentivize dowry-free marriages. How? Provide recognition for families conducting dowry-free marriages. Strengthen legal literacy. Conduct accessible legal awareness program. Then leverage technology, that means use digital platforms for awareness and reporting. Then protect whistleblowers. So sometimes if somebody is saying that, in that marriage, they are asking for this much of dowry and they are giving and taking. So that then you come to know about it, the protection officer come to know about it. He should not disclose the name of the whistleblower. So ensure protection for those who report the dowry crime. So whoever is reporting the dowry crime, he should need to be protected. So if that protection is there, then it will be reported and the action can be taken against those who are violating these norms. So what are the recommendations? I'm just quickly again recouping that. One is localized action plan, empower dowry prohibition officers, promote community monitoring, incentivize dowry-free marriages, strengthen legal literacy, leverage technology, protect whistleblowers. Okay, so these are the recommendations for strengthening the community role. Then, what are the way forward or a vision for a dowry-free marriage society? One is the cultural transformation, a fundamental shift where dowry is universally perceived as abhorrent. Gender equality, where a true dowry prohibition intertwined with achieving the genuine gender equality. We are speaking about the gender neutral laws. These are all the gender neutral, because it is not mentioned only the girl or men. It can be both, right? So, dowry prohibition intertwined with achieving the genuine gender equality. Collective responsibility. It is a collective responsibility. The fight against dowry is the duty of every citizen. It's the duty of every citizen, and it is collectively we need to fight against this dowry system or sampradaya that is going on. Then celebrating dignity. Marriage is celebrated for love and respect. It's very important to know that. A marriage is happening for love and respect, free from transactional demands. But here in marriage, it is a commodity. In a marriage, a son or a daughter is seen as a commodity by the parents sometimes, so that they will get the best out of the deal. Don't you think that? So sometimes it's a dignity is there for both sides. So a vision-free dowry society need to be a vision is for a dowry-free society. These are the way. That is a cultural transformation, gender equality, collective responsibility, then celebrating dignity. And I have given you the materials, the reference materials which I have gone through for your reference. And then, so what we have to say is that no to dowry. Law is there on the one side. Law is there whenever any wrong happens, because the society or the social norms were not sufficient. That is why there was a need for the law to come. However, what we can see is that still, irrespective of having the law, what we have seen is that the role for the community leaders have a great role to play, and we need a society where the girl and the boy is not treated as a commodity for a deal or for a contract. Instead, it should be viewed as a platform where two people are living together happily without any dowry. Without any dowry also, they can live happily. It's not that with the dowry, they can live happily. And there was a time where the kind of gifts were given to a daughter, because that time the girls were not educated much, or maybe if they are educated, they were not willing to employ, or they were not in a position to go for the job. They were not interested much. So that time, the parents used to give by way of gift the properties or for that gold ornaments generally. So, but now we can see that the rules that has been framed, see there is a rule that has been framed, that is I have given in a reference, all of you should read that. The dowry prohibition maintenance of the list of the present to the bride and the bridegroom rules 1985. So you refer to this rules that has been framed you can see that in rules. So this is in the year 1985 it has been framed. So you can see that even in that aspect, they can say that you should say that the property that is given, you should give. And you can make a note of it, what you have given, what you have taken. So that is that way the law has come up. So the law is not saying that you should not give anything to your daughter, or the son should not, or the bridegroom should not accept. But only thing they are saying is that in the name of that gift, you should not harass. You should not ask more. And in that name, you are harassing. You are harassing sometimes even after the childbirth. So there was a case, of course, you can see the Satbir Singh. This is a case that Satbir Singh was the state of Haryana. Okay, so then you can see that in such a cases, what was happening? They asked for after the childbirth also, they start asking the dowry, and she was harassed. And one day she was told that, why don't you go and die? So this type of statement were made, and there were train that was passing through, and she said that I'm going to die, and she went and she got under the rail, and it happened that she was not died, but it was just like a vegetative state she suffered. So the demand, so even after the childbirth, the demand for the dowry and harassment happened to her. So these cases were there. Many cases were reported, but now we are changing to a general neutral society where we can see in the newspapers and all, or it is happening also from the girl side also, the boys are getting harassed or the wife harassing. So it is becoming a general neutral now. So the way forward is a dowry-free society where there is a cultural transformation takes place, where the culture should not come into that. It's a culture to give a dowry or accept a dowry, and there is a collective responsibility of all of us to say no to the dowry. So the marriages are celebrated for love and respect, and there should not be any kind of demand. So with this, we are concluding the legislation, that is the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961, and we have seen the legal perspective of it. And today we have discussed what role a community can play for preventing this social evil, that is the dowry. And we can prevent the dowry death and dowry harassment cases. So with this, I'm concluding by saying a thank you to all of you. I hope that you were able to understand my lecture today. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to this piece of literary snippet. We usually know William Shakespeare as the most revered figure in the history of English literature. But we often tend to forget that he has also been one of the most hated figures in literature. And here I'm not talking only about those boys and girls who have to memorize long sections from Macbeth or King Lear or Julius Caesar before they can go and sit for their school or college exams. But I'm also talking about people who are themselves quite famous authors. Tolstoy, for instance, considered the writings of Shakespeare to be, and I quote, crude, immoral, vulgar, and senseless. George Bernard Shaw absolutely loathed Shakespeare, as he did Homer. But perhaps no other criticism about Shakespeare is more damaging than the one which says that Shakespeare is a marvelous storyteller, provided someone has told him the story earlier. Now, this piece of criticism is particularly damaging because it is true. None of Shakespeare's plays contain any original story whatsoever. They are all written using pre-existing materials, pre-existing stories. Now, does that diminish the stature of Shakespeare as a dramatist? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. See you in the next episode of Literary Snippets.